Good morning, Algebra 1 students. It is Monday, March 30th, and I am here to teach you another lesson. So let's get started, and I want to say a prayer. Father in heaven, we just thank you for this day. Thank you that you're with us and that your promises are always true. I pray for all of my students that you would help them to focus and to learn everything well in this lesson at home, and that you'd strengthen me and help me to be the very best teacher I can be right now. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, well, many of you came by to pick up your tests, and there will be more on that raffle later. But for now, we're going to start our next lesson. So I'm going to sit down, and you won't be able to see me again, but we're going to get started right away. Okay, so here we are. I hope you all had a nice weekend, enjoying being together with your family and finding ways to be together creatively and have fun. We played lots of games this weekend and ate lots of meals together. And now we're going to do 11.3 for Algebra 1. Now we're in the midst of a chapter about square roots. And we've been looking at square roots and simplifying square roots. But today we're going to solve radical expressions, which means we're going to solve square root equations. Okay? So here's our first problem, number 1. Solve 2 square root of x minus 8 equals 0. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to try to move everything away from the x, and then we'll deal with the x by itself. So that's like all the other problems that we have. So the first thing I'm going to do is add 8 to both sides. These cancel. 2 rad x equals 8. Now I'm going to divide by 2, and I get the square root of x equals 4. Now while I'm here, I have the x alone. All I have is the square root. So to undo the square root, I do the opposite function, which is to square both sides. Remember, I can do anything I want to an equation as long as I do it to both sides or to all the terms involved. In this case, we only have 2 terms. All right, so the square root and the square cancel each other, and 4 squared is 16. Now, on these problems especially, checking is very important because sometimes one of your solutions will not work, even though when you solve it, that's what you get. So we're going to start that habit right now in this lesson by checking. So here's my original equation, and I'm going to ask the question, does that work? And I'm going to put 16 in and see what happens. So the square root of 16 is 4. I only have a positive on the outside, and then I keep going. 2 times 4, the first function I do, is 8 minus 8, and 8 minus 8 is 0, so my answer does work for this problem. Okay, now I want you to try 1 or 2 right away on your own. These are pretty quick. We want to establish this skill right away. So go ahead and pause the video and try those 2. And I'll just pause for a moment and keep going. All right, so now if you've already tried these, let's go through these. I'm going to add 7 to both sides. and I get the square root of x equals 7. And then I'm going to square both sides, and I get x equals 49. Okay, so let's check that by putting 49 in. And that's a positive only there. So 7 minus 7 is 0, and it works. Okay, over here, I'm going to add 3. Should be checking your work right now. If you made a mistake, you can go ahead and pause the video and work on that. Okay, so these cancel. Now we can see that this becomes a fraction. That's a little different than what we've done. I want you to try that to see if you could do it yourself, but I'm going to do the same thing. Even if I square it, I can square a fraction. That's totally fine. All right, let's find out if it works. So I'm going to put, in here, I'm going to put 1 over 16. Do you see that? Minus 3 equals 0. Okay, now I take care of the square root first. The square root of 16 is 1/4. And 12 times 1/4 is 3. And it works out again. All right, so let's keep going. As we go, of course, it gets more complex, which is fine. You can handle it. So I have 4 square root of x minus 7 plus 12 equals 28. Go ahead and write that down. Okay, so I want to get the square root by itself, so I'm going to subtract 12 on both sides. And I get 4 square root of x minus 7 equals 16. And now I'm going to divide by 4. And I'm getting my square root by itself, which is what I wanted. So I get 4 here. Now x minus 7 is both, all of that is inside the square root. So I'm going to square both sides. Now that will cancel the square root. So I've got x minus 7 equals 16. So do you see the difference between the first and the second problem? I'm not actually getting x by itself until now when I add the 7 to both sides. Okay, so our checking has all worked out until now, but we're going to keep doing it. So go back to the original problem. And I'm going to put 23 in here. And now I'm going to see if that is true. Okay, so let's go inside the square root. The square 23 minus 7 is 16. There's the dog. I think she wants to come in. The square root of 16 is 4, so I have 4 times 4 plus 12 is that 28. So 4 times 4 is 16 plus 12, and that is 28. So my solution of x equals 23 is a real solution. Okay. Let's go on to number 3. So this time we have solve the square root of 3x minus 17 equals the square root of x plus 21. I'm going to rewrite that down below. So this time I have a square root on both sides, and that is totally fine. It just means I have to, when I square both sides, that I will eliminate the square root on both sides. So that becomes a pretty easy algebra problem. 3x minus 17 equals x plus 21. The power of 2 cancels the square root completely. Alright, so I've got minus x. 3x minus 17 equals 21. I'm going to add 17 to both sides, and I get 3x equals, oh, I'm sorry, 2x. This is 2x, I forgot to subtract. Glad I found that mistake. I need you guys to catch me. 38. So now I'm going to divide by 2, and I get x equals 19. All right, so let's go ahead and check that and see if that works. The square root of 3 times 19, that's x, equals, does that equal the square root of 19 plus 21? Well, let's find out. 3 times 19 is 57. And 19 and 21 is 40. So 57 minus 17 is the square root of 40. Does that equal the square root of 40? Yes, it does. So I know now that 19 is a solution. All right, let's do number 4. Solve the square root of 6 minus x equals x. All right, so let's square both sides just like we've been doing. And the square root and the power of 2 cancel each other. And x squared is x squared. All right, now how do I solve this? Well, I've got 3 terms. They're a trinomial. So usually we try to factor that. So let's move the 6 and the x over to the other side. So these will cancel and I get 0. That's what I want. And now I'm going to rearrange this. So watch this. I'm going to put x next because I can change the order, and then minus 6. Did you see that? I just rewrote them in a different order. Now this should look familiar. In chapter 9, we would factor that using magic X. So let's try that. I put negative 6 up here, positive 1 down here. Okay, so what are my factors of negative 6? 1 and negative 6, 2 and negative 3, negative 2 and 3. Okay, which 2 add up to 1? These 2 do. So I've got negative 2 and positive 3. So I'm going to have here x minus 2 and x plus 3. Remember this? Okay, now we take each solution, I'm going to do minus 2 first, and set it equal to 0. So I get 2, x equals 2, and negative 3. Okay, So I have 2 and negative 3. So let's check those and see if they work. So let's put in 2 into my equation. My original equation was 6 minus x equals x. Let's see if that works. So I'm going to take the x out and put 2 in, and I take the x out and put 2 in. Do you see that? So 6 minus 2 is 4. Is the square root of 4, only positive out here, is that 2? Yes. So my answer, x equals 2, does work. All right, let's try negative 3. So over here, I'm going to take my equation. Sometimes the check is just as much work, if not more work, than the original problem. But that's okay, because you can generate an answer. But if the answer doesn't work, then you don't want to include it. But the process of generating the answer produces the correct answer also. So that's important. We still need to do the process. Okay, so I'm going to put negative 3 in. So I have 6 minus negative 3. When I have a double negative, I add. Okay. Is the square root of 9 3? No. Remember, what we started with was positive on the outside. So this doesn't work. Negative 3 is not a solution. Only 2. So you see, we practiced doing all of those checks, but it didn't actually come in handy until this problem, number 4. But because we've been doing it, it became natural, part of the process. Okay, so let's go ahead and do some OIOs. Whoops, plus 7 equals 12. Number 2, the square root of x plus 4 equals the square root of 2x minus 1. And number 3 I want you to do is the square root of 3x plus 4 equals x. Okay, you can go ahead and pause the video here, and when we come back, we will go over these. I'm going to change colors. All right, so now I'm going to go over these. So I'm going to subtract 7, and I get the square root of x minus 5 equals 5. Now I'm going to square both sides. So I get x minus 5 equals 25. And I add 5 to both sides, and I get x equals 30. Well, let's see if that works out. 30 minus 5 plus 7. Does that equal 12? Well, let's see. The square root of 25 plus 7 equals 12. 5 plus 7 equals 12. Yes. So my answer is correct. Okay, so let's go up here. So just so you know, on your tests, I'm going to be looking for those checks. All right, here, I'm just going to start at the top and square both sides. So I get x plus 4 equals 2x minus 1. And I am going to subtract x here, so I get 4 equals x minus 1. Add 1, and I get x equals 5. All right, you should be checking your work. Now let's see if that's true. The square root of 5 plus 4, does that equal the square root of 2 times 5 minus 1? Is that true? Well, 5 plus 4 is the square root of 9. 2 times 5 is 10, minus 1 is also the square root of 9. They're both positive, so yes, x does equal 5. Okay, check your work on that one. Now we're going to do the same thing and square both sides. So I get 3x plus 4 equals x squared. And I'm going to move 3x and 4 over to the other side. These all cancel. So now I have 0 equals x squared minus 3x minus 4. And I'm going to make a magic x and factor. I've got negative 1 and 4, 1 and negative 4, 2 and negative 2. Okay, so it would be 1 and negative 4. So x plus 1, x minus 4 equals 0. So x plus 1 equals 0, x minus 4 equals 0. Subtract 1. Add 4. And those are my two potential answers. So let's see what happens when I check. The square root of 3 times negative 1, I'm putting negative 1 in here, plus 4, does that equal negative 1? Well, let's see. The negative 3 plus 4, does that equal negative 1? Does the square root of 1 equal negative 1? No, because I only have the positive square root on the outside. So 1 does not equal negative 1. No. So x does not equal negative 1. Let's try 4. 3 times 4 plus 4. Let's see. Sorry about that. Let me try that again. 3 times 4 plus 4. Does that equal 4? 12 plus 4. The square root of 16. Does that equal 4? Yes. So my answer is only 4. Okay, so we're going to have a word problem now. This is number 5. And I'm going to show you a picture. I'm going to read it, the problem, out loud while you look at the picture. Where did I put that? Got that out here. Let's just take it out again. Here. There it is. Okay, it's a sailboat. It's a little blurry, but I wanted to have a nice pretty sail, and I wanted you to be able to see the hull of the boat here. Okay? All right, I'm going to read it. And it says, the hull speed S in nautical miles per hour of a sailboat can be estimated using the following formula. And we'll write that down in a minute. Where L is the length of the sailboat's water line. So the water line is right here. That can be different than what's up here in terms of the length of the boat. Do you see that? The water line down here. And find the length of the sailboat's water line if it has a hull speed of 8 nautical miles per hour. Okay, so everybody has that pretty picture in their head. Let's go back. right? Let's write down what was important. The hull speed is S, and S equals 1.34 times the square root of L. And they tell us that L is the length of the water line. So interesting. How they would ever figure that out. Okay. So the speed of a sailboat. And they tell us in this case that it's 8 nautical miles per hour. So all I have to do is put 8 in. So S equals 1.34 square root of 8. I'm putting 8 in there. Oh no. I'm so sorry. This is S. This is our S. So we're trying to find L. I'm so sorry, I got that backwards. Rewind in your mind. So S is the nautical miles per hour. S is the speed. What we're trying to find is the length of the water line. Okay? So let's try that again. We're finding the length of the water line. S is the 8 nautical miles per hour. So I'm going to put 8 here. All right? And I'm going to solve for L. So the first thing I want to do is divide by 1.34 to get the square root by itself. This L, by the way, is a cursive. If you haven't done cursive for a long time or at all. All right. So then I have, let me figure that out. 8 divided by 1.34, that is 5.97. And now I'm going to square both sides. So L is out of the square root. And I get 35.6. So the speed of the sailboat was 8 nautical miles, and then you can know that the length of the water line is 35.6 feet. Okay, I want you guys to try this one. If the hull speed, which is S, of the sailboat is 6.5 nautical miles per hour. We're going to do NMS. Find the sailboat's water line length in feet. Okay, so go ahead and pause that. You're going to use your same formula. You can pause that and I'll come back in just a few minutes. Okay, I'm going to change colors again because I can. Let's do green. All right, so 6.5 is my speed. I put that here. To solve for L, I'm going to divide by 1.34. 4.85, and that is the square root of L. Okay, so I'm going to square both sides. And I get 23.5 feet. Okay, and they said to round it to the nearest foot, so I'm going to round that up to 24 feet. Alrighty. Okay, so that is the end of our first lesson, and I will send your homework home to your parents, and you can get started on that. Now, I always do, let's turn this off for a minute. I always do Algebra 1 first because I have you first in the morning. But today, we're going to have a special lesson because of 11.4, which is about the Pythagorean theorem. So we've got a lot to do with that, and I will be doing that later in the day. So I did this lesson for you to start now, but you can expect the other lesson later. So have a great morning, and we'll be back later on. Bye now.